We're just watching Richard Grannon on trigonometry. Ha! Now, Richard's used to be a fun person to talk to. That conversation he's having with that Ruski and his mate. Interesting. So Richard's like, he is a colourful character, let's say. I won't say anything bad about Richard. He's a very experienced human being, let's say. He's been basically, he's someone who's been up to all sorts, not meaning to incriminate, but it's like he's an experienced guy. He's been through a lot. And he sort of recognises a load of massive gaping holes and flaws in himself as to where he's kind of grown and learned over the years. So it's like my path and his crossed in like 2013, 2014, and we lost touch with each other. I'd seemed to think he'd like fallen out with me. He hadn't. What had happened is he'd come off one platform. He'd come off Facebook, and I didn't have updated contact details from him. So from my end, it was like I've just been blocked and ghosted. And for years I thought, you fucking twat, why'd you do that? Because we were on to all sorts of stuff. It's things that we used to talk about, or we used to touch on. It's like years later, he's still having those conversations. So it's like there was a time where it was like Grannon, it's like he sent me the odd donation. And also he used to credit me as well, all the time, with having taught him loads of stuff. I'm not trying to get in. I'm saying that our collaboration was really useful for him. And then it's a matter of he's then gone and collaborated with Vaknin, and Vaknin's got holes in his stuff because he is himself big time narcissist who's the centre of the universe, and he basically a slow learner, very smart man, but a very slow learner. And it's like you can see how him working with Richard, who's more a sympathetic sort of narcissist, more a bleeding heart than a predator, if you know what I mean. There's plenty of different flavours, and it's like you put those two together at the same time as Richard being a kind of working class guy who knows how to handle himself and is not a person who can be bullied. It's like him and Vaknin's lengthy collaboration has borne fruit for both of those guys. So it's like the techniques that Vaknin uses in his sort of cold therapy are just the same as mine. It's like you can kind of you can handle, you can make progress in psychosis. You can have a crazy conversation with somebody. Where you can be as honest with them as possible, with no reason to lie to them. Not even leaving any reasons for them to ever speak to you again. Not even arranging for a sequel and have a crazy conversation with somebody about things that keep you awake at night. But there was something that Richard's he's talking about now, his sort of current talking point, and it was like it's such a good talking point that Trigonometry made it like the title of the video, and it's my trauma made me a left-wing fanatic. My trauma. And it'd be on the emotional rawness of the traumatized be something that's like played upon, exploited, and then it lends itself to all kinds of basically conspiracy theories and things. And it's like I put my own long history of being in kind of the conspiracy space actually down to trauma. So as soon as I discovered the wider world to blame, I started to invest in it. So it's like, so where did you start, John? Oh, I started as a a left-wing anti-war activist. Quite a good one too. It's like, why? What's that? It's to do with basically when narcissists who don't know that they've actually got any issues. They don't recognise in themselves that what they've got is some psychological problems or some deep-seated issues, and it's like that thing you find out that you've got problems like that when idiotic things strike you down in life. And it's like most people are absolutely blissfully unaware that it's like, you know, you're a fucking dreamer. Blissfully unaware. But there's others who can look upon them and say, yeah, this person's a dreamer. I can tell this person anyone. I can tell this person anything and they're likely to believe me. So it's like, we live in a world of those who know and those who don't. But his line of questioning, it's like, right, all you saying that with conspiracy theories and their conspiracies, basically, every one of them says that all roads lead back to me. And I'm like, yes, right, all roads lead back to the individual and the conspiracy theorist. It's like, this is what I've been wanting to talk about, all roads leading back. It's like, this is the thing I've got to add to the debate. And it be, right, I was able to be quite easily radicalized into the New Age movement. Easily, right? And the reason that I was easily radicalized into the New Age movement was because of my astrology and genealogy. All the signs in astrology, genealogy, and sort of, almost anything you could put together, right, would point to me as being a reincarnated Messiah. Like, what? So, yeah, you get some folk out there who believe that they're a reincarnated Messiah, but I was brainwashed into believing I was by the kind of information or the kind of indices that the New Age movement used to recruit people into their cult. So I put those details up in my Twitter bio of my date of birth, time of birth, and brief details of blue-bloodedness, right? And because those were the tools by which I was convinced at one time that I was like the astral Messiah. And it'd be funny to me that in reality I've got absolutely no power whatsoever and no one listens to me. And that then be a reflection as to what the world was. So I used to find it, and I still find it, endlessly hilarious. So it's like that kind of level of understanding, the way I understand it, is what you learn after you basically, to go back to the Andrew Tate thing, it's what he'll find out once he's in prison. It's what he'll find out once he's in prison. It's like a guy like that, he understands Messianic symbolism, so he's claimed the empty throne of the Messiah. Because it's bullshit. You can claim the empty throne of the Messiah, put yourself out as the top G, say that you're the kind of savior, you're like Morpheus, you're the guy who sees everything. And it's like, no, your narcissism will lead you to believe that to be true. Your narcissism will lead you to believe that to be true, and then you can fall under the influence of the symbolism of the Messianic. Be all the A symbolisms, all the triangles, but they're actually A's. They're all pyramids, aren't they? Pyramids with capstone attached. Letter A. Letter A. a piece of missed symbolism by all these New Age guys. Missed symbolism, asymbolism, they see it as a triangle or a pyramid. No, it's not. It's the capstone of one. It's symbolic of a higher understanding of the world, of science. It's like we as a society, right, we've been conditioned from the very beginning. This is the thing about it. While I'm here, I might as well throw out why I don't go for religion. Don't go for religion. Big on God and rules, right? But not religion. It's like this notion of Messiah that was used basically to string up Jesus as an apostate and kill John the Baptist and people like that. This notion of Messiah, right? They inherited that, those guys. And as it goes, it's like that concept, to my mind, would have been developed by some kind of warlord who'd whipped a group of people into absolute submission, because we're talking about humans now, aren't we? Whipped them to absolute submission and then took power and control of the word, made them his property, and then wanted to project his power into the future through his progeny. The man who became the first king was the first guy to enshrine a divine prophecy of godhood. So I'm saying it's a scam. I'm saying that the entire order of the church now, and even the church back then, it's like, do you know what the cheating piece is? The cheating piece is that Jesus, right, was not the Messiah. He was somebody who spotted a scam of this empty throne, of this pay your tithes, turn up for church, make your sacrifices, and you're allowed to be good Christian, good Jew. Wait, don't go to war. Wait, because one day you'll be saved. At the end of days, the Messiah will come. It's a completely empty promise. And everyone who had the guts to say, hey, you know, this is a fucking scam, they found themselves dead. It's like, you know, you're messing with our imaginary power hierarchy. You're messing with something big. It's like, no, you've made the head of your organisation an empty chair. You've built a pyramid structure with no accountability at the top. It's a scam. There's no one coming to save us. It's a scam. We sort it out for ourselves. Anyone who mouths off like that gets themselves in prison. Tate's gone to prison, hasn't he? And he's mouthed off a little bit like that, but he hasn't mouthed off like that. What he's done is he's claimed the vacant throne. Which, in the end, all narcissistic people all do that. Especially when they've been empowered. It's like the only thing in your mind, if you're a sort of power narcissist, is it, am I the one? Could I be the one? That's all you ever think about at any given time. Personally, brainwashed myself into believing I was and acted accordingly. Like, wow. Like, yeah. It's like, when did you find out that you weren't the centre of the universe, John? Or when someone was able to bring the universe absolutely crashing down and my imaginary power couldn't do anything to stop it. Turns out you're not God after all. And the force that dragged you down certainly is. It's like, oh my God, there's things in the real world that I can't think my way past, There are obstacles, and there are obstacles in life that you can't avoid, and that you have no control over. So it's like when your power was tested, you were proven to be a fraud. Be taken out with a simple trick of biology, chemistry. So it's like, so you get this new age figure who's brainwashed himself to believe that he's like, basically the most powerful sort of psychic in the world. Like, what? It's like, oh, I can think big. Think big is there's a lot of upsides to imagining such a vast and complicated place. And that black and white thinking of that computer-like brain, it's like having that going on at the same time as other systems. It's like, yeah, you're a madman, aren't you, John Boy? And it's like, well, yes, I am. It's like, I see it as I've got different, like people neurodiverse. I'm like, no, I've got like a few different brains that can kick in. A few different, like, it's like, once I realised I wasn't centre of the universe, I came to realise, hey, hang on a minute. There's an absolute power in knowing that. Like, what? Yeah. Understanding there are those that do. It's like, be dispelled of that myth or that laugh you have with yourself that you might be the one who's come to save humanity, right? When that evaporates, it's incredibly funny. Because, what if you are? Well, obviously not, because it's like things might have turned out a little bit different for me if that be so. It's like, but John, it's like most of this life, you've had every disadvantage as to where, you've been an inch away from a life of crime. So yeah, it's tough, isn't it? But it's like, there's plenty, I tell you what, there's plenty of impressive people in the world, right? But there is no saviour or Messiah. There's plenty of superior intellect, see, better prowess, more power, more actual influence. There's plenty of people like that, but there is no one. The sin of the church is to have taken Jesus and added him to a pantheon and immortalised Jesus as the continuation of the old myth or lie of the return of the one, right? Because I'll put it to you, right? God, if was to appear, would appear as a judge. Looks like that's the best we can hope for from the people who came before us as to who had the greatest impact and who showed the best leadership, who built our societies. There is this human spirit, which I'll call God, that in its way has to be satisfied that justice has been done and exists solely because of its ability to do a deal, a win-win, a open and shut case, a zero-sum game. You're born, you die. Everything's a zero-sum game. And when things stop being zero-sum games, They become confusing because that's what we're set up for. There's like rules set in stone. If you go against that, you're going to have trouble. You're going to start to have a chaotic situation. Personally, I'm of the understanding that God loves the truth and loves a closed case. Likes a finished story. And there's actually no, if you can sit and feel be in your feelings and be able to face yourself and be all right, who says you're not right with God? Or what is that accumulative spirit that everyone has access to every minute of the day? And it's, to my mind, it's like, well, there is only one that we can all agree. And it'd be, what if that spirit's decided they don't need you no more? Like the body of that spirit, right? It's like you're just, one of, all of. Call it the emotion, or the feelings, or the energy, or the thoughts, or the doubts, or the anger. It's like, what if that spirit judges you outright and decides it wants you dead? What does it do? Well, I think it'd probably start by having you thinking you were the centre of the universe. It would drive you quite mad before it destroyed you deliberately. With your aid. With your aid. So there are those who say there is a scientific basis for God, and I'm like, no, that's the wrong way of saying it, because that's what Tate said the other day in that video I saw, that there's a scientific, no, there's not a scientific basis for it. There's a biological one. Let's be specific. It's like the ordering force in the world, the actual ordering force is death. Death. Life is a matter of life and death. And death is our organising principle. You can see it everywhere. It's like people die, something gets done. Threatened with the fear of the pain of death. Psychological weapon. So the organising principle of humanity is death, and we don't face that. We put it off, or we even don't think about it, or it lies in a place of dread. And it's like, well, there's no way of taking that dread away. People have to come to that themselves. And I think the only way you can really understand that is to have suffered pain that could be said to be worse than death. Crucifixion. And not die or something. Once you realise that in this world that there are things worse than death, and it'd be okay, so death is not something to be afraid of. No, there are things worse than death. And there are those who know. And those who know there are things worse than death, they have to live with that And how they live with that really does depend on how they turn out as human beings. Whether they can face it and embrace it, or in the case of most working class people, find it funny, either breaks them, destroys them, turns them into victims, or it teaches them something that they can't unknow, that'll permeate through every action that they change the world for them. It's like the number of people in this world who have been touched by evil and that proves something to them that's indelible. Staggering numbers of people. It's like, as far as I'm concerned, it's like there's a conversation to be had with the great theological minds as to say whether it's available to do a new kind of deal with God, a new covenant, and at the same time bring all those churches, don't destroy them, but the religions be completely reorganized and reformed. I say, I would challenge that from the start, our prophets and heroes from myth that make up religious deity have been stolen from us. Our real heroes, guys like Moses and Jesus, have been added to pantheons of saints and previous incarnations of magical daddy, Messiah. It's like we code a lot of what our art shows a lot of it with the certain archetypes we have encoded as to where, to my mind, to my sort of heart, right? Certain things don't jive. As to where I think our greatest hero is a guy like St. Patrick. Drives out the snakes. So what might that have meant, really? And I'm like, oh, he likely frightened off and likely even expelled, got rid of, banished some fucking vile people that were preying on the innocent or the weak. And those people recognise that as to say, he's our guy. That's who our guy is. What kind of guy would have those kind of means? Someone who goes out to face, ride out against fucking evil people, go and see them, go and give it them in the face, say, hello. They're our heroes. They're not part of a tradition of, re-emergence of God here and there. They're not part of that tradition. They get hijacked by it and then added to the pantheon of saints. So our greatest heroes are guys who pointed to a tyranny and said, that's a scam. And then religion then makes them part of the tyranny. I might have a simplistic understanding of it. Sorry. I only spent like hundreds of hours on my knees in places of worship as an altar boy thinking, why is all this here? Why doesn't what this man's saying to these people, and many of whom I know, why are you just dishing them out a stick to beat people with? A license to get in people's faces? I think of them now, looking out, you turn your head to the right when you're kneeling and you can see all those old biddies and all turning up for church every day. It's like, why are you here? And it was in most cases, it was so they could feel good about themselves when they fucking bullied everyone else with their pious bullshit, where they got to be like judge, jury, executioner, fucking almighty queen of their own household. It's like that's all that system of sort of piety from the religious. There's no mystery why religion lost its way. And it's because of that. It's because of the people in your life who whip that out and use it as a weapon against you. That's what killed it. Hypocrites. It's like, well, that priest who's been, for years. You see, the thing is with priests these days, it's all Mr. Live and Let Live. It's not about calling out what's fucking wrong. Be like, the clergy, to my mind, should be holding a position hard. And it's like, you don't have to live by this, but the position still has to be out there. Them ideas still have to be part of what makes a person. It's like, if you don't provide it, people will find it for themselves, and they'll find it from people like me and not, Calvin Robinson. It's like it gets missed what my talking points are. I question the pantheon of saints. I question the validity of all the religions. The actual validity is like, I think you found in myths bullshit, and I think your greatest heroes are guys who saw that it was. Exposed it even. And then we have to decide that, why did they kill Jesus? And it's like, is it because he didn't deny that he was the Messiah? So, well, we can say that. That's the dogma trap. These are not the end of days, therefore you're an apostate. No, you're not allowed to run your mouth like that. You're fucking with our business. The Messiah was never supposed to return. This is a scam. And then, so lo and behold, he does. Or someone who knows it's a scam so he can walk in as if he knows. And they're like, oh, here's trouble. Nailed up not a week later. The priests nailed him up as an apostate. Someone who was questioning the righteous existence of their religion. It's like, well, what did you get from that divine message of just what cunts those who can control the mob are, and the things they can do? Because that's what it's a story about, if you ask me. John the Baptist, into my mind, the guy who recruited Jesus into a kind of clique. We know something, don't we? Don't we, brother? Suddenly the carpenter becomes the prophet. What happened to John? He mouthed off to like the king of Judea that his wife was a whore and generally a low quality woman. So what happened to him? Well, she asked for his head. She asked for him to be executed for running his mouth, and down he went. And it'd be a matter of that. It's like John the Baptist paid the maximum price for telling the truth that the world can dish out. I mean, he knew it. The king likely knew it. And certainly the people will have known it. But say it, dead. That's a lesson about power, isn't it? And it'd be like, you can, and that will actually the lasting lesson be, you can speak truth to power, but you do risk losing your head. And if you willingly accept that, the only way they can stop you is to cut your fucking head off. Although nowadays, they could just lock you up and put you on all kinds of mind-altering, psychotropic, mood-stabilizing drugs. And then you'll likely see the world a whole lot differently real quickly. But yeah, if you actually question the validity of the founding myths of religion, right? But it's like, but yeah, we can still agree on the law. Why? It's like, well, we've just removed the myth of the Messiah, and all we have left are these fantastic individuals who delivered all this wisdom. It's like, that's what the wisest people in the world know, right? That the pyramid is vacant and never existed in the first place. So that hand signal they put up in Car, that Andrew Tate, where he goes like that, right, like that. Pyramid, capstone attached, hand signal. There's not so many people who understand the direct as to what he's attempting to draw upon, and that'd be, in his mind, everything. Because the guy who understands that he can't be stopped, who's got like one half of the Messiah, right, he identifies all those Messianic symbols as being his, basically telling him that he was always going to return. Now, I have a savage laugh about that, because if you take the details in my Twitter little bio and you run them through an astrological birth chart, it'll give you a accurate representation of how I'd like the world to see me. Accurate of how I'd like to be seen, and the standard I hold myself to is included as well. Now, yeah, you're an astrologer. It's like, go and take that as the information that you use in the first place to recruit people into the New Age cult would be to get them into the old astrology and the horoscope type things, but take it a little bit further than that as to where you go into the in-depth grifty star charts. Take my astrological data, right, and stick it in your star chart creation software and say, and just have a look as to what it says that my secret nature is. You know, if it's worth anything to you, right, you can have what you want. So it's like, yeah, I'll give you one. On the day I was born, right, this was number one. I'll play it. I'll get my video. In fact, I'll just play a well-known couple of seconds of the song that was number one on the day I was born, right? There'll be an advert now. There is. You ready?
My everything and the answer to all my dreams.
So it's like that song, in my imagination, right, reinforces a pattern that endlessly reminds me that I am the sort of astral Messiah. And the role that I kind of feel is like of being Gandalf. What? Well, yeah, fundamentally, the thing I know is that there is a boss above me. As smart and central and genius as I once thought I was, I am not the centre of the universe. Because nature can bring me down. God can strike me down anytime God wants to. It's like there is only one force in the world. What might that force be, John? Death? And here I am and I haven't been struck down. So it's like, I don't think there's anything wacky about it. I think when people say, well, I'm spiritual, it's like, well, I think everyone is. But there is a line as to where that force decides when you go to war with it, it wants you dead. Turns on you. So what would I describe myself as? Right. Someone who fought an eternal war with himself that went on for as long as I can remember. And the thing I was fighting a force with was actually trying to save me. But its way of saving me was to aid me in my own destruction. And in the end, it built me up to me thinking, it's like, you're omniscient and having almost outrageous ability to read other people. Because you've harnessed it, you've learned it, you believe yourself, right? If you just listen and observe, feel that there's sense data there. And it turns out there is, but it's nothing like as subtle as that. It's like you were just failing to look before. Everything's in front of you. So it's like, I'm saying that the guy who's in that way thinking and crazy, it's like maybe they're not wrong. Maybe some of them are quite accurate, and it'd be a matter of, you've honed a skill there that's new, that hasn't been seen for a while. You honed a skill. How are you going to use it? I'm saying there's a world beyond that the people, when they say, oh, narcissist, no cure, it's like, yeah, there is. It's like, the cure is when the weight of your sin on your conscience is going to kill you. You don't die. Most of them die. Some of them it takes 20 years for them to die. But they all die. Everyone dies in the end. As I say, the organising principle is death. And God is a construct on top of that great unknown of what is beyond, which is a question none of us can answer. So we create, and it's an absolute necessity as well. I don't think our system for the passage of time and shit would work if it wasn't for that. something special. We'd be like dogs. If we didn't know, if we didn't know about death, we'd be like dogs. And there are those of us that are, and they're actually driven in every action by the repercussions of a fear, a sense of dread, and don't recognise that it's actually, you fear your own death, and you're in the prime of life, or you're even young and you fear your own death. It's like, who introduced you to the god of death so young? And it'd be, well, no one, but, teachers telling me that the world's dying. And we've been born in the middle of a catastrophe. I'm telling you, in these young minds, in the climate, they've shaped a new religion from scratch that hasn't got a foundation on an older religion. It's like, you can say a lot of good things about Islam, but fundamentally it's built on top of Judaism. It recognises it's part of the same pantheon of religion, has the same saints, but it's based on a substructure that already existed. Like this climate one isn't. It just builds a world of death and narcissism. I say that there's ways of, let's say, if you didn't act your way into those beliefs, if you didn't see some catastrophe where you saw the world sucked up from underneath your feet or something by climate change, it's like, if you thought your way into that nightmare, you might be able to think your way out of it. Just saying. It's like, there are those who are traumatised and stuck in a pattern. You can't think your way out of that. But if you live under the cloud of an imagined future of death, it's like, you could probably think your way out of it. It wasn't put there by trauma and association. It was something that was taught to you by people who were frightened. Anyway, that's enough of me talking about the big crazy. I do like to talk about the big crazy though, and I don't have anyone at the moment. I used to have people in the world I could talk to about the big crazy. Can't anymore. There's just nobody who's receptive to the big crazy. Like, so what's the big crazy, John? It's like, the New Age cult was able to convince me that I was its main guy. Turns out I wasn't. But fuck me, I was convinced I was. And it's hilarious. It's hilarious. What a good case I could make as to say, you know what? I might just be onto something here. What? And it's like, yeah, it's like, what have you done? It's like, I've got an argument that can destroy people who've got messiah complexes. What? It's like, yeah. What use is that? And it's like, well, find me someone who's out of control. Find me someone who's laying claim to the whole fucking universe, and I'll make a counterclaim that's better than theirs. And still be some guy sitting in a council flat. And it not matter a fucking goddamn.